Shanti. All of you have come from far and wide, from very, very far places, flying to Madhuban to meet Baba, whom we call God. I don't know how many of you, before leaving your country, told your friends, relatives, your colleagues that you are going to India to meet God. How many of you said that? Acha? Okay. Because they must have asked you, why are you going to India? What are you going to get there? And you said you are going to meet God. And when you said this, what was the reaction? What did people say in reply? Huh? Crazy. Yes. Something wrong with you. Your screw is loose. That's what some say. You bluffed. Okay. You are lucky, yes. But then when you said, I'm going to meet God, this was the answer they gave. You are lucky, okay. But most of the reactions must have been, oh, you are crazy. How can you meet God like that? They say you can meet God only after dying. You can't meet God before dying. Or they say you can go to heaven only after you die. You know, when somebody dies, they say left for heavenly abode. So you go to heaven only after you die, or somebody dies, we say he's gone to God. So you meet God only after you die. But nobody knows about a living death. How you can die whilst being alive and thereby meet God or experience heavenly bliss from God. So if somebody said you are very lucky, definitely that one also can come very close to God. But if somebody said you are crazy, it means he does not know that there is a way when we can meet God in the corporeal world. See, there are 3 ways to meet someone. One is that you go to him. You go to his house and meet him. That's one way. Wherever he lives or works, you go and meet him there. The other way is that he comes to you to meet you. And the third way is that both of you leave from your home and meet in a middle place, somewhere in between, which is neither your home nor that one's home. Maybe in a hotel, maybe in any guest house. Okay, we shall meet there. So both leave their home and meet in that place. So 3 ways of meeting. Now, if we have to meet God, one way is that I go and meet God. The other way is that God comes and meets me here. And the third is that both start and meet in a particular place. Now, if I say that I go to meet God, but then when will I meet God? How will I meet God? Where will I go? So when, how, where? because I don't know where God is. I don't know what will be the experience of it. And some give an answer that you have to do a lot of bhakti, a lot of devotion. And some say for many lives you have to do bhakti, devotion, and only then you can go and meet God. And the other way is that God Himself comes here and meets us. I remember an instance that there was somebody, he was so desperate to meet God. He had done a lot of bhakti, a lot of devotion, traveled everywhere to many pilgrimage places in search of God. And ultimately he gave up. And one day when he woke up in the morning, he started fighting with God. He said, God, if you don't meet me today, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself if you don't meet me today. You have to meet me somehow or the other. Otherwise, I'm going to kill myself. So he kept this telling to God, and then kept saying, I don't want to live anymore if I don't meet God. And he went on his roof, his house roof, and started going round and round in circles, talking to God in his mind. And according to the drama, in that place, we had a mela, a big spiritual fair was being held there, and Baba had said in the Murli that you must drop leaflets, from the helicopter, from the plane, so that people are able to get those leaflets and they come to your exhibition or your mela. So he was wandering around, going round and round on his roof, and said, God, you must meet me, otherwise I'm going to die. I'm going to die if you don't meet me today. And that helicopter was moving around, and they were dropping the leaflets. And as he was saying this to God, a leaflet fell right near his feet. And we had put in that leaflet some writings, like the heading was Invitation from God. Invitation from God. A godly invitation. So when he read this, invitation from God, godly invitation, what does this mean? Invitation from God. Oh, this is great. Because I had said, God, if you don't meet me, I'm going to die today. And then he read in that leaflet, there was the address where the exhibition was being held, and he went there. And as he went there, the sister explained to him about who God was and how he can experience God. And immediately, whilst looking at that picture of Shiv Baba, as he was getting the explanation, he felt that he was going into trance. And just standing there, he got a vision of light. He got a vision of light. And immediately he realized God. And he said, well, now I have experienced God. I have met God. So this is just an example I'm giving to you. That, okay, if God will come to me, how will God come to me? How will He invite me to meet Him? Where will He meet me? Because we in our impure state cannot reach God. As Baba says, you can't go to Paramdham because the soul is pure at this time, impure at this time. When it was in the soul world, it was very pure. But now it has become impure, so it cannot go on its own to Paramdham because that's the pure world. So that purest Father has to descend to meet His children. Just like, in the Lokik way, we see worldly way, the father is very tall, he's 6 feet tall, and he has a child who is maybe just 2 feet in height. Now, that child wants to meet the father, and he's saying, Daddy, Daddy, he wants to meet his father. And the father is so tall, and the child is just 2 feet, and the father is 6 feet. Now, how will the child meet the father? So what will the father have to do in order to meet the child? What does he do? He bends down, he bends down, puts his hands like this, and then picks up the child. And then maybe he hugs the child, makes him sit on his shoulders, or even makes him sit on his head, plays with the child, or even, throws the child in the air and then picks him up. But the child is so happy because now it has met the father. And it has the full faith that even if the father, flings the child into the air, but the child is laughing, is happy, because the child knows that the father will pick him, will again hold him, will catch him. He won't allow him to fall down. So the father, when he makes him sit on his shoulders, the child, he tells the child, see child, first he will bend down to pick up his child. And then he'll make him sit on his shoulders and say, see child, you are taller than me. So the child becomes taller than even the father, and the child is so happy that my height is even higher than my father's head. But he doesn't realize that he is sitting on the father's shoulders. But the father is happy to encourage the child that how he is taller than him, or higher than him, and so on. So this is how we understand God's ways. We cannot reach God on our own, because first of all, we were all body conscious. Like Baba said in yesterday's Murli, that I am the only one who is soul conscious. And therefore I am the only one who can tell you that you are a soul. I am the only one who can tell you how to be soul conscious. I give you the complete knowledge of the soul. And I come and meet you. So, how will God come? We are in the physical form. And God is incorporeal. And therefore, in order to meet His children and make Him equal to Him, or sometimes He says, I make you higher than me, He has to become like us in the corporeal form. But then He doesn't take a body of His own. He doesn't come in a mother's womb and be born as we souls enter a mother's womb and are born. Because we enter the mother's womb and are born, that means karmic accounts are created. There are karmic accounts which leads to someone becoming my mother, someone becoming my father, and so on. But then God does not have any karmic accounts. And therefore, God will not enter any womb and be born like we souls take birth in this way. And therefore, God needs a human body, because we are in human body form. So very many question that why in the body of Brahma? Why not somebody else? Then Baba often says in the Murlis, okay, if it would be anybody else, the same question would arise even then. Why is in this one's body and why not in someone else's body? This question would arise anyhow. In whosever body he would come. And then some say, okay, you say Brahma Baba and Shiv Baba named him Brahma Baba. We understand who God is. But then why in an old body? God can come in a young body. God can come in a pure body, a one who celebrates from birth, because Baba was not only aged, but he was also a family man. He had 5 children. He was a businessman. He knew everything about the world. Not that the purity would have been in him as much it would be in a small child. And therefore, why not in a small child? Why not in somebody pure from birth? Why not in this? Why not in that? And Baba gives the answer. First of all, what does God come for? This is a very big question. God comes to create pure family life. Because family life has been coming down since eternity. Right from golden age there has been family life. And now of course families have become impure. But then pure family life was the trend of golden age. So family life is the normal way of living. Because even when we say, what is a human being is a social being. Social being means we cannot live alone. A lion can live alone in a forest. But human beings are social beings, and we live in a family gathering. And therefore, when God has to come, He has to establish a pure family life. And in order to establish a pure family life, He needs to come in that one's body who has the experience of family life. This is very important. Secondly, He has to come in that body who can be called father. If He would come in a young body, it would not be possible for everyone to call Him father. So He should be a family man, He should be an aged man. And then Baba gives the importance of the cycle, that Brahma Baba's soul is that soul who was at the beginning of Golden Age, the first Golden Aged prince, and how that same soul begins bhakti, devotion, and that same soul comes at the end of the cycle and becomes an ordinary human being. So the first deity, the first devotee, and the first human being through whom God creates the new world again, or we say rejuvenates the world. And it is very interesting how Brahma Baba was a devotee of Vishnu. He wasn't a devotee of Shiva. This is very interesting. Many people question, well, Shiva Baba came in his body, then he should have been a devotee of Shiva, and therefore he invoked Shiva in his body. But Baba says not that he was a devotee of Shiva and that is why he could invoke, if he would have been devotee of Shiva and then invoked Shiva in his body, no. He was a devotee of Vishnu, because this also is the law, that the worship-worthy becomes a worshipper and worships his own worship-worthy form. So Vishnu, Sri Narayan, Baba says, and in his last birth, he is an ordinary human being who worships his own worship-worthy form, Vishnu or Narayan, without having the knowledge that he was that. And then it was Shiv Baba who gave him the vision of Vishnu. Vishnu himself did not give his own vision to Brahma Baba, because it's the same soul. But Shiv Baba gives the vision, and that Vishnu who came in front of Baba, Brahma Baba, gave him a blessing. I am Vishnu, the four-armed Vishnu, and so are you. Of course, this vision was given by Shiv Baba, but then Brahma Baba got the vision of his future form, or the vision of his original past form, or the first birth of Golden Age, or first birth of the cycle. If Shiv Baba would have given him vision of light at the beginning, then Brahma Baba would not have been attracted much, because he was a devotee of Vishnu anyway. And therefore Shiv Baba's very clever trick was that he gave him the vision of Vishnu at the beginning. And Brahma Baba felt that his bhakti was fulfilled, and now he has got the vision of God, because Vishnu was his God. And after he got that vision and the blessing that you are the same as me, then the thought came in Brahma Baba that I am like him, how can I be like him? He is my God, he is supreme. Baba did not know that Shiva was the supreme. For him, Vishnu was the supreme. But then, when he got this blessing that you are the same as me, or I, or you will become me, then Baba got this realization, how can I become like him? And then the understanding that I have to do God's task. If Shiv Baba would have entered in his body just like that and started, Baba would never have understood what is happening. But then later on, after Baba got visions of destruction, vision of Golden Age, vision of the soul world, and he heard a voice that this is a world you have to establish, and therefore wake up, wake up. You have to establish a golden aged world, and you will be instrumental for this task of creating a new world, and therefore wake up. And then Baba realized that he had a big task of God to perform. And that made him have total unlimited disinterest for the world. And then, as Shiv Baba prepared him, then Shiv Baba gave him his own vision. And through that vision, how Baba felt that light had entered in his body. He did not understand it at the beginning because Baba used to read the Gita. And he used to read the Gita and also explain on the Gita to his children, his family, his relatives, But then when Shiv Baba entered in his body, he took the Gita scripture in his hand. But even before opening the book, Shiv Baba would enter in his body and start speaking. And Brahma Baba used to wonder, who's speaking through my mouth? And my brain is not working. I'm not even reading the Gita. The book is closed, but somebody is speaking. Who is speaking? So then Brahma Baba also became a listener, trying to understand what Shiv Baba was speaking through his mouth. It was very interesting. How Shiv Baba would tell him, you are a soul, you are a soul, you are a soul. And then Brahma Baba began to realize that it is not my power working. And then whenever he would look at anybody, he would say, you are a soul. Baba's Lokik wife, her name was Yashoda. So Baba used to tell Yashoda, Yashoda, you are a soul. Yashoda is a soul. Yashoda is a soul. So in this way, Baba's drishti changed completely towards all his family members. Baba's Lokik daughter-in-law, her name was Radhika. Radhika is a soul, Radhika is a soul, is a soul. He used to write on the walls, I am a soul, I am a soul. He would draw the picture of a soul and mind, intellect, sanskars, and I am a soul, and explain whenever anybody would come in front of Baba, Baba would explain to him on the soul. Of course, at that time there were no pictures. Now we have so many pictures, but this was just the beginning. And then how 3 revolutionary acts happened at the time of establishment, which were totally contrary to the society at that time. One was this huge, we can say revolution of visions. All those who saw Baba got vision of Krishna through him. Or if he gave drishti to anybody, that one would go into trance and start dancing with Krishna. So this used to be the experience of everyone who came at the beginning of the yajna. But nobody knew what would happen next. Even Baba didn't know. This was all the wonder of Shiv Baba working at that time. And people used to tell Baba, Baba, that you have some magic in you. Baba would say, no, I don't have any magic. I don't know anything. I'm not doing anything. This is not my task. It's not my power working. So this was interesting that even Brahma Baba did not understand that time that which power was working through him. And then there were other trance messengers who used to tell Baba that it is Shiv Baba working through you, because Baba himself did not understand. But those sisters who would go into trance, they would tell Baba, because they used to see, in the center of the forehead, like Brahma Baba's soul and Shiv Baba's soul. One moment just Brahma Baba's soul, and then when Shiv Baba's soul would enter, there would be so much light on the forehead, the feeling could come that now it is Shiv Baba working. One moment Brahma Baba would be meeting the children, the next moment when Shiv Baba would enter, the glow on the face would be totally different. So this was a revolutionary act of visions at that time. It was very interesting, which surprised everyone because it was not human task at all. And then the second revolutionary act was that sisters, mothers, women, they started coming more and more than men. Men, not that much, because in Hyderabad, Sindh, it was a very different community, the Sindhis. They were big businessmen. The Sindhis were very big businessmen, and they had business nearly in every country, all over the world. In Asia, in America, in Europe, everywhere. And the ladies, the women, they used to be like confined to the four walls. They never went out. The men used to travel around the world. But the women were just confined to the house, bearing children, looking after the children, and so on. And this was just the beginning. So when Shiv Baba came, how the mothers were pulled. And Shiv Baba would say that when the mothers are uplifted spiritually, then the world will be uplifted spiritually too. And the world will become heaven. Mothers will open the gates of heaven. So Baba put the sisters in the front. This was a big revolutionary act, because at that time women had no place in the society. It was a man-dominated society. And when Shiv Baba put the sisters and mothers in the front, Brahma Baba had to face a lot of opposition, because the men did not like it. But then it was not Brahma Baba's work at all, it was the work of Shiv Baba. And therefore Baba used to say, I'm not doing anything, it's not me. And the third revolutionary act was the act of purity. How Shiv Baba made everyone take a vow that I will lead a pure life. Even the young Kumaris, they also took this pledge that they will lead a pure life. And again, Baba had to face a lot of opposition. People will tell Baba, okay, you are old, you are over 60 years, if you lead a pure life, it doesn't matter. But what about these young ones? They are so young, they haven't seen the world. And why are you telling them to take a vow of leading a pure life? But Baba would say, it is not me. I am not doing it. The day Shiv Baba told me to do it, I also started leading a pure life. I didn't know beforehand that I had to lead a pure life. Nobody ever told me before. So how these three revolutionary acts happened at the time of establishment of the yajna. And then we know how Baba made a huge army of Shaktis and Pandavas and put them into total isolation from the world and gave them new power. Baba empowered them spiritually for 14 years in total isolation. So this was not a human task. No human being could ever have done it, facing so much opposition from the society, because it was something very new. No one had ever done it before. Well, all the prophet souls to some extent have faced opposition. Any prophet soul who came, even Buddha when he came, Christ, Muhammad, Guru Nanak, all the prophet souls have faced opposition because they brought something new to the society. And this was totally new. Nobody had ever thought of it before. So this was the beginning, but then it was the work of God to establish three things at the same time. Baba compares that those prophet souls, when they descend from the soul world, they establish only one thing, and that is a religion. Christ established Christianity, every prophet soul established his own religion. But when God comes, he establishes three things at the same time. On one hand, he establishes the deity religion. The deity religion which has gone into oblivion, just memorials are there everywhere of gods and goddesses in most of the religions. Either it is in the form of gods and goddesses or it is in the form of angels. So gods, goddesses, angels, so all that is actually the original deity religion which existed in the golden age. But then people don't know, but the memorials are definitely there all over the world. And therefore God establishes that religion which has gone into oblivion. This is one thing. When other prophet souls come, they don't establish a religion which goes into oblivion. There are no memorials of Christianity when Christ came. There are no memorials of Buddhism when Buddha came. It's a new religion altogether. But when God establishes the deity religion, the memorials are there. And therefore, this is the first thing he establishes, and he gives everyone the aim. You have to become like them again. You were them and you have to become them again. And the second thing God establishes, which no other prophet soul establishes, God establishes a kingdom. Baba says other prophet souls, they just establish a religion because the souls of that religion descend from Paramdham. They are all new souls. And when they multiply to a great extent, they become in large numbers, and then a kingdom of that religion is established. Like Christianity was established, but Christian kingdom came much later. Islamic kingdom came much later. Buddhist kingdom came much later when the numbers increased. But then when Shiv Baba comes, he establishes the kingdom also at the same time. Like today Baba said in the Murli, that nobody knows about the true heaven. Nobody knows that in heaven there will be king and queen and subjects and servants and this and that, and all that will be established from here. You know, all the sovereigns and subjects who will come in the golden age, they're all being created here on the basis of our efforts. So other prophet souls will never say like that. And they don't even know of heaven on earth. They know heaven as soul world. Even Christians will say, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Of course, to bring that heaven on earth. But then, heaven when they remember somewhere above. Actually, they are remembering Paramdham. And God dwells in Paramdham. Shiv Baba says, I never enter heaven. I never enter golden age. So they talk about paradise, but they don't speak about heaven on earth. They do say, but heaven means golden age. Baba says this they don't know. They speak about Paramdham. So when God comes, he speaks about the soul world as well as the golden aged world. And Baba says, I establish a kingdom. That's the second thing God does. And the third thing God does is, he creates a family. The souls of the deity religion, after the Copper Age began, they all scattered all over the world. All over the world. And then, at the end of Iron Age, that whole family comes back. The magnet comes and all the needles are pulled towards the magnet. And this is what we are saying. Children from all over the world have come to meet the Father once again. So we say that God establishes a family. No prophet soul establishes a family. Religion only. But here we say we are all one family. On what basis? What is the basis for the establishment of a family? It is soul-conscious attitude or outlook. Everyone is a soul, and therefore we go beyond name, form, religion, color, anything which is physical or worldly, because we are lifted, we are empowered to the stage of a soul. So we see each other in a form of a soul, and therefore all these limits of which we see in the world, they finish. So knowledge of soul helps us to create one world family. Then what enables us to create a religion? Purity. Purity is a must for establishing a religion. All the prophet souls on the basis of purity established their religion. Without purity, a religion can never be established. And thirdly, the third thing for establishment of a kingdom, what is necessary? Just like, when any new kingdom or any new rule is established, they prepare a constitution, the laws, the bylaws, all the disciplines, the principles which have to be followed by that kingdom or by that rule or by that king, whoever is the ruler. So God also establishes these laws. Baba speaks about disciplines and principles which we follow. And when we follow this, we establish a kingdom, because on the basis of the disciplines we follow, we get our status in the golden age. So God establishes three things at the same time. This is why Baba keeps telling in the Murlis, you have to find out, you have to ask yourself, what status am I going to get? Will I become Lakshmi Narayan? Will I become a subject? Will I become a servant? Will I be able to come in the rosary of 108? Will I come in the rosary of 16,008 or whatever? So rosary here stands for a kingdom. The kings, the sovereignty. And therefore, only God establishes these three things. And next is that, how do we experience God? Somebody can just tell me, I am God. Will I accept like that? So many God men are there in the world. They say God comes in me. But what is the proof? How can you prove? Supposing someone says, I'm a doctor. How will you prove that he's a doctor? Just by him saying it won't help, no? It's not written on his forehead that he's a doctor. He's an ordinary human being like me. But what makes us experience him to be a doctor? What will you say? He should have knowledge of medicine, he should have knowledge of diseases, he should have a private clinic, he should have some experience, and there should be experience of other people who have taken medicine from him and have been cured, and their experience. So all these things are counted for making me have an experience of him as a doctor. So too, when God comes, what are the specialities which we can experience, which we cannot experience otherwise from any ordinary human beings? The greatest speciality is that when God comes, He is the ocean of knowledge. He gives us the knowledge of truth, knowledge of soul, knowledge of supreme soul, knowledge of karma, knowledge of the cycle. This is the knowledge of truth. Truth means something which can never change. You go to any other organization, they will say, okay, you can worship anyone, you can remember anyone, okay, you want to concentrate, just concentrate on your breath, become thoughtless, but they will never tell who are you and who is God, because they think soul and God is not necessary for meditation, not necessary for concentration. You can just concentrate on your breath and, or on some light, some flame, that's all. But here we say, no, become soul conscious and remember the Father. This only the Father can say. No human being can say it, because only the Supreme Father is always soul conscious. So God is the ocean of knowledge. And Baba sometimes says, for the past 73 years I have been giving knowledge to you. If everything was written, whatever Baba has spoken, how many volumes or books would have been created. On one hand, it is unlimited knowledge. But on the other hand, Baba says, the essence is just two alphabets, A and B, alpha and beta. Soul world and heaven, God and His inheritance, just two words, that's all. If you can't remember more, doesn't matter, just two words is enough. How, when God comes, He simplifies everything. He doesn't make it complicated. If something is complicated, there is definitely some untruth in it. Truth is very simple. Truth need not be complicated. You go to watch a movie and everything is so complex, so complicated, there is so much of, some like suspense, and you start questioning, oh wow, how, why, what, when, and when the truth is revealed, it is so simple. Oh, I never thought of it, you say. I never thought of it. Because you're thinking in a very complicated way. So truth is very simple, very easy. What is untruth can be very complicated. So when God is called the truth, He speaks the truth and He simplifies in such a way that everyone can understand without any difficulty. So God is the ocean of knowledge. Then secondly, all the qualities of the Supreme, they should be visible. You know, nowadays there are so many occult powers. In these occult powers, some people are possessed. Some wandering spirits come and then they possess someone. And then they start speaking, they start, they're doing some very strange acts. And then they even start beating, they start shouting, they ask for meat, they ask for money, they ask for this. And people think, and they also tell something about, the future. So people think, oh, this one is God, this one is a goddess, this one is this one is that. So it's all blind faith. But when God really comes, He will not say, give me meat to eat, give me money, give me this, give me that, or get angry or be abusive. And many people do that and people are so afraid of them. Oh, if I don't do it, then God will curse me. God will never curse. He is the bestower of love and happiness and bliss. How can He curse anyone? He is always giving joy to children, to souls. He is the Almighty, Supreme Father, like a father gives to his children. He won't curse his children. No father will ever curse his children. So if somebody is cursing, definitely it can never be God. God is the sweetest Father. He's a loving Father. So how does God come? And then we say that Brahma is the only one, the medium through whom God speaks. And how Brahma Baba became Avyakt, became perfect on 18th of January 1969 and became the constant companion of Shiv Baba for making the task of establishment more quick. Because when Baba became Avyakt and Bap Dada came in the body of Dadi Gulzar, how Baba said that up to now the service was only at the pace of an ant, ant speed. And now service will happen at bird speed. This is what Baba said in the first Avyakt Murli in the body of Dadi Gulzar. So Dadi Gulzar also has a very special role to play. Like Brahma Baba has a special role to play, Dadi Gulzar too has a special role to play. She was the first soul to get a vision of Avyakt Brahma in the subtle regions. She was the first soul. Before, all those who came in the yajna, they got vision of Shiv Baba, they got vision of heaven, they got vision of Krishna, they got vision of Paramdham, of destruction, just like Brahma Baba got. But then vision of subtle region and vision of perfect Brahma, Avyakt Brahma in the subtle region, that vision was by Gulzar Dadi. She was the first one to experience subtle regions. And when she saw the subtle regions, a world of light, silvery light, like thousands of moons put together, she saw that world. Like when you are in your flight and you see the clouds under you, how the clouds, they are like, cotton wool. So this is what she experienced, silvery white, like cotton wool everywhere. And in the middle of that, she saw the angelic form of Brahma Baba in a body of light. The face was visible and therefore she could think that she could know that this is Brahma Baba, but it was all light all around. And that form told about himself that I am the perfect form of Brahma. And this Brahma, after he attains perfection, will become this one. This is what the angelic Brahma told Dadi Gulzar. That's what she saw in the subtle regions. And then she came down and told Baba, Baba, your perfect form is in the subtle regions. And after you attain perfection, you will become that. Then Brahma Baba realized that I have a perfect form in the subtle regions and I have to attain perfection. I have to become perfect. And therefore he started making efforts to become perfect. And then when Brahma Baba became Avyak, Dadi saw that how both the forms merged and there was only one Avyak form, the angelic form of Brahma Baba, after he had attained perfection. And Gulzar Dadi is just a medium, or a temporary medium. We still say that Brahma Baba is the medium of Shiv Baba. Gulzar Dadi is a temporary medium in the sense that she goes into trance and then she's in the subtle regions and like Baba sends her to sleep. And Shiv Baba and the perfect soul of Brahma Baba enter in her body and work through her while she's in a state of sleep. She doesn't experience anything. It's after 4 hours, 5 hours when Bap Dada leave, then she comes back and she sees the gathering. And before that, she takes leave and she becomes like soul conscious, detached from the body, and like Baba sends her into a state of sleep. She doesn't know anything. After Baba has gone and she goes back to her room, she reads the Murli. She is given the Murli in her hand because she never hears the Murli. We often tell Dadi, you are so lucky that you are able to meet Baba in subtle region, experience Baba. She says, no, you are more lucky than me. Because Baba sends me to sleep and I don't experience anything. You are more lucky than me because you are able to meet Baba directly. You are able to speak to Baba directly. You are able to experience Baba directly. I go into a state of sleep and I read the Murli afterwards. So you are more lucky. And we say, no, Dadi, you are more lucky. We have a lovely conversation with each other. But then it's interesting that she has a very, very special role to play. And Brahma Baba would tell Dadi Gulzar that your eyes will do a lot of service. So we are seeing that how Shiv Baba and the perfect soul of Brahma, when they enter the body of Dadi Gulzar and Dada give drishti to the children, at that time we can feel that how we are able to go beyond, with a glance. We are able to go beyond. So wherever you may be, you have to have that feeling that how the soul meets the Supreme Soul through the drishti. These eyes are like the windows. Like through the window you see someone outside and someone inside. Similarly, these eyes become the windows where the soul is able to meet the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is able to meet his children. So Brahma Baba, the father of humanity, Shiv Baba, the father of souls, both the fathers come and meet the children. Baba said in today's Murli also. So Baba's outlook is very unlimited. Brahma Baba also used to say this whenever Baba would speak in the corporeal form, in the Sakar Murlis. Baba would speak as if Baba was speaking to thousands. Although there would be just 50 people or even 20 people sitting sometimes. But then the feeling was Baba is speaking to so many in front of him. So when many would ask Baba, there were hardly 20, 50 people sitting in front of you, but you were speaking as if you were speaking to thousands. So Baba would say that, children, I'm not just saying these ones, but Baba is seeing even those children who are going to come in the future. So like Baba sometimes says in the Avyakt Murlis also, I see two gatherings. One gathering is of the children who are sitting here, and the other gathering is of children who are all over the world, but they are still in front of Baba, so Baba is able to see them also. So this is how Baba's vision works, which is very unlimited. It's not restricted to any limits. So knowledge is unlimited, love is unlimited, power is unlimited. All the qualities we can think of God are revealed through the medium. But the medium doesn't know anything. This is the beauty of this role now through Gulzar Dadi. When Shiv Baba used to enter the body of Brahma Baba could listen to the Murli. Baba used to say, I am number one student, because Shiv Baba would come in his body and Brahma Baba's ears would listen first. You know, when I'm speaking, my ears listen first before this voice travels to you. So Brahma Baba was number one student. But now Gulzar Dadi doesn't listen at all. So a big difference. Then therefore we say that Gulzar Dadi is just a temporary medium. The true medium is still Brahma Baba, because Shiv Baba will not work without Brahma Baba. Brahma Baba becomes the right hand of Shiv Baba, the creator, the one who establishes the golden age. Until golden age is established, Shiv Baba and Brahma Baba in the combined form. And then we all return home, and then Shiv Baba sends Brahma Baba and the children to the golden age, and while Shiv Baba is still in the Paramdham, he doesn't come in golden age. You know, very often Shiv Baba says, when children say, Baba, we invite you in golden age. And Baba says, okay, when you go to golden age, you invite me there. But then there we will forget Shiv Baba. And also Baba says, even if you invite me there, what will I do there? My work is to establish golden age. My work is to purify souls. My work is to give happiness to souls. And when that work is complete, then I know I don't have to come in golden age. So Shiv Baba never comes in golden age. So this is the beauty of this wonderful knowledge which Baba has given to us, which no human being can give. And therefore, in order to experience God, we have to first of all become totally soul conscious, totally bodiless. We have to be in that state of consciousness that I am a soul meeting the Father, the two fathers, the Father of humanity, the Father of souls. And both are my fathers, Bap Dada we say. And I'm sitting in front of both the fathers and taking the love from both the fathers. At that time the mind should be in a total peace. No human being should be remembered at that time. Nothing else should be remembered. It should be a plain intellect. Just an intellect which is absorbing Baba's love, Baba's power, Baba's peace, and the Father is like bestowing, showering on the children. So keeping a plain intellect, we have to receive these blessings from the Father. Because whatever Baba speaks is like a blessing to the child. This is the beauty of God's versions. Every word is a blessing. When Baba says, Baba is seeing his holy swans, and immediately have that feeling, I am a holy swan, it's a blessing to me. And anything happens, remember, I am a holy swan. I pick up only pearls, not dirt, not impurity. So this is a blessing which God gives. And therefore, day after tomorrow, we will all meet Baba, and I'm sure you will get a wonderful experience where you'll feel that how the bhakti, the devotion you did for half a kalpa, you are receiving the fruit of that bhakti. And keep your intellect very, very plain, very simple, without any expectations. Just the thought of receiving God's blessings. Whatever Baba is giving, I have to take in. I have to become the embodiment of that. I have to become totally soul conscious. I have to, make my intellect very, very plain. Only then I can get that experience. So soul consciousness, God consciousness, faith, intoxication, all this will work, and that's how the experience will be felt. Don't see the body of Gulzar Dadi. The soul is in trance state, in a subtle region. She is not there at all. But it is Bap Dada working. Of course, there are many more things, but I think I finish now. And maybe if there's an occasion tomorrow or any other day, even after Baba, you will be able to know more through other classes. So now I finish. Om Shanti. Thank you very much. It's already 10 o'clock.